I just have so much faith that everybody's going to come out of it so much better. You know, like I'm looking at our year right now, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like we could very well end up having one of the best years we've ever had. And I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would have made a lot of the changes, a lot in processes and just the way I operate as a leader. Like, I don't know if I would have made those changes if it hadn't been for this pandemic. Amber Miller is president and CEO of United Way of North Central Florida, a nonprofit dedicated to positively impacting the health, education, and financial stability of people living in North Central Florida. Amber joined United Way in 2018 after spending the majority of her career in marketing and community relations. Her transition from for-profit to nonprofit work began in the fall of 2014 as a volunteer for a local nonprofit where she learned the ins and outs of charitable giving and donor relations. Amber has since held roles in development for 2 nonprofit agencies before joining United Way, where she quickly advanced in her role to now leading the organization. We hear all about her journey to becoming CEO in today's episode of the WHOA GNV podcast. You are listening to WHOA podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast for you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. I am your host, Collin Austin, and real quick, you guys, before we dive into today's episode, I know some of you are already looking at the video and you're like, oh my gosh, this is not a mastermind session. That's right. I've decided to change things up again, primarily because mastermind episodes take a lot of planning, and I have been neck deep in my back to school season over here at New Scooters for Less. Thank the Lord. Things have gotten a lot better since school started. But you know, it just takes a lot of time and prep. And so I've decided to kind of mix it up again. I'm gonna do more one-to-one interviews. And then I think I'm going to do mastermind sessions every 25 episodes. I don't know. I'm looking at Sarah because I feel like I just kind of need her to nod her head and confirm that that's what we're going to do. But anyway, like if you really like the mastermind sessions, which a lot of people do, that's super interesting because we get a lot of business owners in the room together and we discuss a topic. Look for that later on. I don't know which episode yet, but just be on the lookout for that. We're probably gonna do that every 25 episodes or so. But we'll let you know when that's coming around the corner. All right. And you guys, today's episode, you know, I can't do this without our incredible sponsor. Today's episode is being brought to you by The Best Restoration. You need to have friends on your side when those disasters happen, when that toilet overflows or when that pipe bursts in the wall, or if you're like us and you move into a building that is full of mold, be sure to call The Best Restoration. I can speak firsthand to the quality of their work because they have done so much for me. These guys are amazing. With their certified techs and state-of-the-art equipment, these guys are the masters of disaster. Give them a call at 352-505-3321 or visit them at thebestrestoration.com. Jorge, brother, I love you. You are awesome. Thank you so much for your support. And I am excited to get into today's episode because you guys, my friend Amber Miller, president and CEO of your United Way of North Central Florida, is in the house. Amber, I'm so glad you're here.
Me too.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. Well, first, congratulations to you for becoming CEO. When did that happen? That was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, it was made official our March 31st board meeting of 2021. So, yeah. All right. It feels like yesterday, but I guess has it been 6 months? I can't do math right now. Yeah.
It goes by quick. Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm super proud of you. I'm super excited for you because I think you're perfect for the role. So before we kind of dive into, CEO United Way stuff, I mean, like, tell me a little bit about your story, right? I always like to talk about the stories. Everybody knows I start off with that. So, how did you get to Gainesville? How did you get into the world of nonprofits? All of it.
It's kind of a long story, but I'll try to be short. So I moved to Gainesville with my husband back in 2005. So we were just dating then. We weren't quite married yet. But I had been going to college at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. And for those of you who aren't from the north and you're not familiar with lake effect snow, you can get some really gnarly blizzards and things out of the blue. And so we just had the worst winter ever at school. They ended up shutting the university down because so many of the dorms had electric baseboard heat, and my apartment, electricity went out, everything. So it was just really bad. And when I graduated, I knew I wanted to get out of that state. I wanted to go somewhere warm, and I just always
Were you from there?
No, actually, Well, yes and no. Like, my family moved around a lot when I was a kid. So I was born in Indiana, but then we were in Texas and Georgia, Ohio, back to Indiana. And then, like I said, after I graduated, I was like, I'm done. So we moved. My husband and I came to Gainesville. We literally picked it out of this ancient book that a lot of people aren't familiar with anymore, but it's called a road atlas. And you can open it up and it will give you maps of different states. And so wanted to come to Florida, and we were looking at places to go, and we landed on Gainesville. You were looking at a road atlas?
Yes. And you made the decision based on that? We made a decision
based on a road atlas, yeah.
Please describe how this conversation goes, because I'm trying to picture you and your husband pulling out a road atlas, being like, well, look at this place. Look at Gainesville right here. It's kind of in the middle, maybe. I mean,
yeah, that was my logic. I'm like, I don't want to live on the coast because I don't want to have to deal with hurricanes. I don't want my home to get washed away. And
dude, it's so funny. We were kind of talking about that in the last episode.
Yeah,
that's funny.
And so and to kind of add a little perspective, so he had bought some property off of his grandfather in Interlachen, Florida, and we had no idea what was there or anything. So we thought, well, let's just try to find a place that's kind of near there, and then we can decide what we want to do with this land, somewhere down the road. And that's kind of how we landed on Gainesville. And my husband, obviously huge sports fanatic, and he's like, the University of Florida's there. It's the Gators. It's, they'll have college housing. So we're like, great, it'll be affordable. And we moved here, and and we've been here ever since.
So did you guys have any jobs or anything lined up?
We did not.
It was completely
on a whim? My lease ended in the end of July up in Indiana. We packed our stuff up, whatever we could fit on a little flatbed pull-behind trailer, and in his Ford Bronco and in my Chevy Cavalier, we drove to Peachtree City, Georgia, which is where my parents were living at the time, stored everything in their garage, stayed the night, got up the next day, drove here, got off on 39th, and was driving east on 39th, and we're like, where is this town? Where is anything? Because there was just nothing there. We found 441. We were driving down 441, trying to find a place to stay. We pull into this motel, and my husband gets out, and the guy inside is like, you didn't pay for your room. My husband's like, we literally just pulled up in here. We have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, no, you didn't pay. And my husband's running back to the car, and he gets in. He was like, we gotta go. So we drove all the way down till we hit university, and then we headed west and ended up staying at, it was the Days Inn, which is just west of 75 on Newberry Road. And then flash forward 3 years later, we ended up buying our house about 2 miles.
You stayed in the Days Inn for 3 years?
But it's just funny how, we live right down the street.
What year was that when you guys got to Gainesville?
It was 2005.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's my time. That's when I'm here. All right. Gainesville's changed a lot since 2005.
Yeah, Tioga Town Center wasn't even out there yet. I remember getting lost trying to find Hale Plantation, the golf and country club, and I drove all the way out Newberry because everyone said you needed to turn down Tower Road. Well, if you're traveling west on Newberry, it's not called Tower Road. It's called Southwest 75th Street. So yeah, I drove all the way out there.
Yeah, not to make things confusing or anything.
Yeah, that was it. That was the one thing I hated about Gainesville. I'm like, why can you not name your streets actual names? Everything is a number, and then there's street, place, terrace, drive, circle after it. I'm thinking, I will never find my way around here. And I had a laminated map.
I bet a lot of people feel like that.
Yeah. we bought a map, a city map at the gas station. And it was laminated so that I wouldn't have to figure out how to refold it. It was like easier to put back together so I could figure out, where to go because we had no idea.
All right. So you guys get to Gainesville. What's, husband's job? What were the first jobs that you guys got? And how long did it take you to get something?
So he was actually an after-school counselor at the YMCA.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my first big job after college was I worked at the Gainesville Sun freelance for a little bit. Yeah.
All right. How long did you do that for?
It was almost a year. And then I kind of had a little early, I guess, quarter life crisis because I went to college for advertising and journalism. And so I, wasn't sure if I was ever going to find a job like that here in Gainesville. And we just had the one paper. And I'm like, I'm not really getting the job that I want. I need something that has benefits. Like I'm a grown up now. I got to do grown up stuff. So I decided to go back to school and I was going to be a nurse and did all these prerequisites. And that didn't really pan out.
You did that at UF?
No, I went to Santa Fe.
Okay.
But there was kind of a mix up after I was there for a year and I applied for the program. The same time I was getting married. So my name changed and it was right when the application was due and somehow my application got misfiled. Like part of it was missing. It was in somebody else's folder. I didn't get in. And then I was on a wait list. And then I ended up getting a job actually at North Florida Regional Medical Center and was doing patient transportation for a while, which is basically you push people around in their wheelchairs or beds or wherever they need to go so they can have an x-ray if they got to go to dialysis or whatever. So I kind of loved that job because I got to meet all these doctors and nurses and kind of see behind the scenes how all of this stuff is done and to kind of get your feet wet a little bit. Like, do I really want to be in healthcare? And at the time, there was an associate administrator there. She was amazing. And her and I were having a conversation one day and she was just like, you have this degree, you have all this talent, and we have an opening in our marketing position. Do you want to go back to school or do you want to start a career? And so I had to make a decision. And so I decided I was going to apply for the job and I interviewed for it and HR was kind of like, listen, if we decide to offer this to you and you accept, can you kind of promise us that you're not going to change your mind in a couple weeks should you get an acceptance letter for nursing school? And I'm like, if I take this job, I'm taking this job. So I got the job, I took the job, and 2 weeks later I got my acceptance letter. But I stayed.
Yeah, you stuck to your promise.
I did. Yeah. I stuck to my promise. And yeah, so I did that for a few years and met so many awesome people working in healthcare. And then also getting to meet a lot of the agencies and, players in the media game, I guess, here in Gainesville. And so I started building relationships with the local publishers for the different magazines. And after a few years doing marketing, I really wanted to really do something creative. I wanted to kind of stretch a little bit more. So I ended up leaving and I did go work for a local publisher for a couple years. I was a creative director and was designing magazines. One was monthly, one was bi-monthly, and doing ad design and helping with a nonprofit event in town, and just super busy. And not gonna lie, got a little burned out and decided, I need to slow down because I was just really stretching and stressing myself out. So I did another career change and ended up working for a retirement community for a little bit, doing community outreach and marketing there. And then after that is when I took a big break. So my husband and I had been trying for years to, have a child of our own. It wasn't really working out for us, but we ended up finding out about a little boy that did need a home. So we started that adoption process, and I thought, I'm gonna stop and be a stay-at-home mom and do that for a little bit. And for anyone that's ever gone through the adoption process, it's a test of patience because you have it in your mind that it's going to happen pretty fast. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't. There's a lot that goes on, and it got really intense, and it was dragging on for months and months. And
why is that? Because you always hear of so many children needing homes, but then it seems like it's, you gotta chew off an arm to get it done.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, ours wasn't it. It was in the U.S., but it was across state lines. So we were adopting from the state of Kentucky. And of course, we live here in Florida. So, you have to have this extra paperwork. And basically, it's an agreement between the states. If we're going to bring this child from Kentucky to the state of Florida and the adoption falls through, then the state of Kentucky agrees to take the child back into their welfare system and it doesn't fall into. So it's called an interstate compact. And so there's a lot of players in the game. You're working with state agencies, you're working with local nonprofit agencies. And so it took a while, and it was really probably the most stressful time in my life.
Really?
Yeah. Because you just, your heart is expanded in a way that it's never been expanded before. You're hoping for, this child, and you're trying to do everything you can, but at the same time you feel like there's nothing you can do, and you're just kind of waiting. And so, and I, wasn't working. So I'm like, I've got to find something to do with my time, or I'm going to go stir crazy.
How long did that process take?
So we found out about our son. I think he was born in March. We found out about him, I think it was June, July. And then we kind of threw our hat in the ring there and started that process. And it was the following January. Nothing had happened yet. And we decided, we had already kind of started a relationship with the foster family. And so they were kind enough to say, yeah, come up and meet him, And because at the time he was almost 10 months old. And I'm like, we've got to meet this child, or it's going to be so hard for him. The older they get, the more they remember, the harder I thought it was going to be for him to bond. So we went up there, planned to spend 10 days, and we had a great experience with his foster family. They were amazing. They have become our family. And our son was amazing, and we bonded. It was just crazy. Like, I just remember not being sure that it was going to happen. And as a woman, you feel like in order to really love a child, you have to give birth to it. I don't know. Maybe that's just in my mind, but you kind of feel like that's kind of how it's supposed to be. And so I was scared for myself that I was not going to be able to love this child like fully, right? But I remember we had spent the first few days in town. We stayed at a hotel, and we would go and we would take care of him every day. Instead of him going to daycare, we would go to our foster family's house and we would take care of him. And then after the first 5-7 days, they were like, move in with us, because you need to learn his nighttime routine. You need to do all of this stuff. Because what we found out after being there for 2 days was that their children's services was going to let us take him home, which was kind of weird because we flew up, just the two of us, and we were flying back with a baby, and we did not know how we needed to tell Delta about that, but it worked out. But the first night we went to stay the night, put him down, he was in his little crib, and then there was a bed in the room too. And I just remember holding him, and my husband is sitting next to me, and I'm just, kind of smiling, but at the same time I'm kind of crying, because you're scared, you're about to become a parent, and you're about to have this life in your charge. And we had nothing. Like, we had space dedicated in our house, but I didn't make it a nursery because I didn't know if it was going to fall through, and I didn't want to have.
You didn't want that disappointment.
Yeah. So we're sitting there, we're holding him, and there's like a night light in the room. So it's like this great ambient lighting. And I just remember holding him, and then we kind of like leaned back on the bed, and he was laying between my husband and I, and he rolls over on his side, and he looks me in the eyes, and he puts his little hand on the side of my face and just smiled the biggest smile.
I'm gonna cry on that episode.
I lost it. Like, I lost it. But I knew right then and there, I was like, this is my son. Like, that moment, that was my son. So, and I knew we were going to be fine. We were going to be totally fine.
It's super interesting that you had said that, though, because like, I actually had believe it or not, I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week about that exact same topic around adoption and, their hesitancy to adopt, because they're like, I just don't know if I can love this child like my own. And I was like, I just think that ends up, working its way, working itself out. I just feel like once you have those kind of moments, it's going to happen. It's going to be there, It sounds like very much like it was.
Yeah. It really was like probably one of the most magical moments in my life, and I'll never forget it. Like I can remember every detail. I can remember his face. I can remember the little dimple in his chin. Yeah.
So cute.
So, yep.
I mean, that's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, not that I meant to like dive down that route, but I think it's super cool. I didn't know that about you, and that's pretty neat.
Thanks.
So you have a little one. And
I do.
You worked it out with Delta.
We worked it out with Delta. They let you carry an infant in your lap, so we did not need to get him a ticket.
Right.
But we got to bring him home, and And
how long ago was that?
It was so he was born in 2007, so it would have been January 2008. He was 10 months to the day when we brought him home on the airplane.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And during all of that, I was, volunteering in nonprofit just to keep myself busy, and I kept volunteering a little bit after.
Which nonprofit were you at?
So I was actually volunteering for a primate sanctuary here in town. And
There's a primate sanctuary here in town?
There
How did I not know this?
There is, I know. Gainesville has a lot of hidden secrets.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I wanted to
Can we have them on the show? Will they bring primates into this room? What?
No, they won't.
Right.
That's frowned upon. But yeah, so I wanted to, just volunteer and do something selfless, but not have a lot of, I wouldn't say responsibility, but I literally just wanted to go shovel poop, to be honest, because so much was happening in my life with the adoption. I wanted to do something that was just kind of mindless but yet meant something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started it. And I ended up doing marketing for them. Like the first day, they're like, "Oh, you know how to do this? Oh no, you're going to the office." And I'm like, "Okay." And
does that happen a lot in the nonprofit world?
Yes.
It's just like because you have somebody and then you find out their other skill sets. You're like, "Oh,
yeah,
you're going to be here, and here."
Something, and this is me personally, but coming from for-profit into nonprofit, in the for-profit world, there is a lot of emphasis done on like leadership development, staff development, professional development, certifications, like really kind of helping your team to grow and stretch. And I mean, at the hospital, they were doing tuition reimbursements. The nonprofit world, I feel like we're not given those same advantages, or it's frowned upon oftentimes. So you have amazing staff, you have amazing people that care, and they have amazing skill sets. And there are days where I just really wish that society would open up more and think of nonprofits really as business. We're small businesses, many of us. Some are mid-sized, some are large, but yeah, I think of it that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so much has happened recently, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when did you get in with the United Way? So
I came to United Way in 2018.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, so you've been there like a pretty short time to go. I mean, when you entered, what were you doing?
Yeah, so I was doing fundraising and development. So we fundraise through workplace campaigns, small business partnerships. So just building relationships and trying to raise funding for our organization so we could continue to do good work in the community. So I did that for about a year and then got promoted and started managing a team. So my role shifted and became hybrid. So I was still doing some fundraising, but then also kind of overseeing community impact, which is the work that we're doing in the community. So we have programs and we have our community investment funds. And marketing. I was looking over the marketing team too. Yeah.
Is that all? So, I mean, now becoming president and CEO, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, is this like when these opportunities arise, is this like you put your name in the hat and you apply for this position? Like what was that whole process like?
So for this one, it was kind of sudden, but not sudden. So my predecessor resigned at the end of July of last year, and it was not expected. So when something like that happens, your board has to come together and make decisions on, who can fulfill the interim role. And so they asked me to do that, and I was like, absolutely. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We have a team. Like we've got it, and we've got commitments in the community. So of course, absolutely, I'm here to help, whatever I need to do. And so that's kind of how I got into that. So it happened really quick. And then, our board wanted to take some time because, when you have a sudden leadership change like that, of course it creates waves, in your organization, and being in a pandemic, got to stabilize. So at that point in time, it was just like, okay, let's get everybody together. Let's make sure we got everything we need. Let's keep rowing the boat, And then the board started looking at, what was the plan going to be for recruiting for the CEO position. And so they really started talking about that before the holidays and then launched into it. I think it was the beginning of the year. And so they did a national search. So we are member agencies of United Way Worldwide, and we pay membership dues. And part of that, we have a international job portal. So we can post things and recruit individuals from all around the world. And so we had posted through there and posted locally. And yeah. And then the interview process started in, February, March. And it took, I want to say it was maybe 4 to 6 weeks because it was 2 rounds of interviews. So.
I mean, when you step in kind of as like the interim, right? Mm-hmm. Like, where's your mindset at? Is this like, when you step into a role like that, is this kind of all right, let me get in here and prove myself as like worthy of being in this role? Or like, was that even, like, was staying CEO even on your mind?
Of course it's on your mind, but at the same time, it was kind of like reverse for me. So it was like, let's see how this goes. Am I really going to like this? This is a nice way for me to try something out. And then if I'm like, yeah, I don't like this, I don't have to apply, right? But I think initially it was just like, we gotta go. So I don't know. I'm just really good at pivoting. And whenever there's a crisis, like I just go into first responder mode, probably because my dad was a volunteer fireman, like almost my whole life growing up as a child. So I was always in the firehouse or in his car. And so I was just used to it. So it didn't faze me.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. So now that you're in this role, I mean, do you do anything to like reset vision? Like, I mean, stepping into this, into this role now, where's your mindset at? Mm-hmm. Looking at the future, where do you want to take it? Is your vision different than the previous CEO's vision, or do you just kind of pick up where they left off and move on? I'm just kind of interested in how you approach it, I guess. Yeah,
I think my vision is a little different. I think I have more of a shared vision. I really work with my team. So I have thoughts and ideas of things that I want to do or think the direction that we need to go in. But I also bring in my team's input as well, because I don't want to take us down a path. If you don't have your team behind you, you're not going to get very far. So for us right now, we're kind of focusing on 4 areas. Our community impact, which is the work that we do out in the community. So we're reevaluating that. Are we doing the right things? Are we focused on the right things? I mean, this pandemic has really thrown everything for a loop. So the things we had in place prior to that, does it still make sense? Where do we need to adjust? And then our marketing and communications. Last summer we lost our marketing department, so it was 2 staff members. So we haven't really had much of a marketing presence in the last year, and that's huge, for a nonprofit. That's how people connect with you. And we're fortunate in that we are United Way, so we do have some brand credibility to us, I think, in some aspects. But locally, there's a lot I think that we need to do better to be out more and have people more aware of us. The third thing is our fundraising and development. So we've traditionally really leaned on our workplace campaigns, which is the primary way that we fundraise. I mean, people donating back through payroll deduction has been how we operated since we began. But, we can grow into more online and connecting with individuals and then always having to go through a workplace. So it's making those little bit of tweaks to our fundraising and development, and then continuum of care. So in the summer of 2018, we became the lead agency for our local homeless continuum of care, which is made up of a consortium of nonprofit organizations, city government, county government, and everyone is really comes together and is dedicated to creating a comprehensive plan for how we're going to address homelessness in our service area. And we, as the lead agency, really are that administrative arm of it. We do a combined grant application, and this is where we're securing HUD and DCF, these state and federal funding for homeless services here in our community. So it's a pretty big role for us, and we've been doing it for a little while, and we've got a lot of improvement that I think that we can do in terms of how we're doing, things. So those are kind of our 4 areas that I'm really focused on right now.
I mean, when you talk about community impact, like how, and you said, how do you evaluate that?
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's hard. So, for us, we're doing that right now. So we're looking at research from all sorts of entities. We're looking at the health department. So backing up, we serve 6 counties. So United Way of North Central Florida covers Alachua, Bradford, Dixie, Gilchrist, Levy, and Union. And our office is right near the Oaks Mall. We primarily operate out of Gainesville. Many of our partners are based in Gainesville. And so I would like to see our organization grow and spread out into our surrounding counties, over the next 5 to 10 years. And so that means we have to look at their needs as well as the needs of Alachua County. I mean, we're the most densely populated, so of course a lot of services and need is going to be here. So we're looking at the health departments in each county. We're looking at our own 211 data, which is our 24/7 resource referral line. So who's calling, from which zip codes, what are they asking for? Is it rent, utilities? Is it, childcare? Is it mental health? And we're getting data from our impact partners as well. So these nonprofits that are working in all of these different areas, what are they saying? What data are they reporting on? And what can we glean from that? And that's really what we're looking at right now. And then from there, when we talk about the other side of our community impact, which is our investment in the community, because our community investment fund, that's what it's there for. So when you donate to United Way, your funding helps to support that community investment fund. So we're granting money back out to nonprofit programs in the community that are serving in areas of health, education, financial stability, or immediate needs. So the areas that we're funding, the programs that we're funding, are they the right programs right now? Or the right needs, I should say, because all the programs are the right programs. They all serve individuals. But what is priority in this moment? Do we need to make any shifts? So we're laying that foundation now. We don't have the results of that yet, but we'll have that in probably another month or so.
Cool.
Yep.
What's the biggest misconception about the United Way?
I think our biggest misconception is that we are not local. That's kind of a big battle that we.
Is that just because there's United Ways everywhere?
Yeah. So United Way is a global organization, and I think of us, the way I explain it to a lot of people is you got to think of us as a franchise, right? So United Way of North Central Florida is locally owned by our donors. It's operated by local staff, and it's governed by a local board of directors. And we pay membership dues to United Way worldwide every year. And these membership dues give us access to resources to support us in operating on the United Way model. So we get access to marketing materials, there's training materials, there's human resources, job description templates. A great example is, there's a lot of flooding happening right now in Dixie County. And I was able to call United Way Worldwide disaster relief coordinator and have a conversation with her about what can we do on a local level to help our county over here that is struggling. So that's what our memberships dues pay for, is for us to have that support network and that infrastructure. But when you donate to United Way of North Central Florida, that money stays here. It does not go out of the 6 counties that we serve. The only way it leaves is if you, as the donor, choose to give it to XYZ nonprofit. You have to designate it, and that's your choice, and we'll honor your choice. But if you just blindly write a check, or you donate through payroll, or you sign up as a small business partner and you give to United Way, that funding is going to be used here locally.
That's cool. So. Talk a little bit about, because I mean, obviously our audience is a lot of small businesses. Yeah. Talk a little bit about the small business partnership, because this is just something that I thought was incredibly unique. Especially from a standpoint, we get so many, as small businesses, you get so many nonprofits or organizations that are looking for sponsorship, and they'll come in and they got like the platinum, gold, silver, models and that kind of thing. And I mean, the small business partnership is way different than that. So maybe you can explain a little bit of how it's different.
Yeah. So this program was started, I want to say it was back in 2005. No. 2015. Ooh, I'm dating myself. It's 2015. I can't tell the years anymore. It's one long day. And it was really designed to help connect small businesses with giving back to our community in a meaningful way, and to make it as easy as possible, and to also foster some networking and education, because we know our small businesses don't have all the resources that larger businesses do. So it started off as donating $100 a month. And then after a year, we added another level, so you could do $200 a month. And then this past year, we actually added a new one where you could do $50 a month, because we know the pandemic has hit everyone differently. So we wanted to just be able to provide a vehicle for businesses to be able to support their community. And I think that's what makes the Small Business United program so special, because it is designed specifically for small businesses, and it allows you to support a variety of nonprofit programs. So our community investment fund supports, I think it's 27 currently, nonprofit programs right now. And so it allows you to kind of stretch your dollars. And so that's why, I think it's a little bit different. Of course, our small businesses can support whoever they want, however they want. But if they're not sure, we would love for them to consider investing in United Way, because it's going to go a little further.
Yeah, I think it's just easier from a cash flow standpoint. I always find it hard for me to, sit down and strike a check for $1,200 all at one time. But to be able to do $100 a month, it's a little bit easier. It's almost it's like, all right, this is another bill, but it's not a bill. It's like, it's like for a very good cause, but it still allows you to kind of break it out, over time, and not necessarily have that huge, check going out at that one time, Yeah. That's what I always really liked about it.
Yeah. And I think too, we try to make it like relationships as well. So we would do, before the pandemic hit, we would do quarterly breakfast. So we would invite everyone out to the office in the morning at 7 a.m. and we would have a speaker there. We would do socials in the evening a couple times a year. And then we would do our annual small business summit, where we would get some speakers to come in and provide some education and stuff. So able to find ways to provide a lot of value through that. That's exactly right. It's more of like a membership versus like a donation. That's why we call it a partnership.
Yeah,
we want to be partners.
I like it.
You're going to give back to the community. We want to try to give back to you.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So as CEO, how would you describe your leadership style?
Ooh. I'm an authentic leader. I would say that. So my staff has seen me cry. They have seen me frustrated. I've had days where it's just hit you hard. You have a lot happening at home, and you have a lot happening at work, and everyone's stressed, and I'll come to work and I'll have balloons and flowers on my desk. So, but the same goes to my team too. If they're having a bad day, come in the office, vent, give it to me. Let's talk it out. If they're not having a great day, go home, rest. Just take some time, because it's a lot. If you really think about it, every single one of us have been living at some level of crisis every day since this pandemic hit. You've got, this, with having to not being able to have your business open. You've got parents that are having to homeschool their kids. And now you're sending your kids back to school, and they're trying to navigate being back after a year being at home. And there's just, and you've got this urge, like there's a desire to connect. You want to go and meet with everyone and hug everyone and do all of this stuff. But then at the same time, it's like, well, you're not supposed to. So yeah, it's been so authentic. That's me. I'm real. It is what it is.
And with COVID this past year, I mean, a lot of businesses, including us, like really struggling. Did United Way have a huge amount of drop off? Was there, is it coming back around now? Is like what, like where did things go with the pandemic, and then where are things now?
Yeah. So we're stable, and we're still finalizing our numbers. So United Way, we operate on pledges because you have individuals that they pledge to donate so much through payroll deduction, right? And then you start collecting on those pledges. And so for everyone that pledged last fall, their payroll deduction started this January. So we're in September, so it's 9 months into their actual payroll deduction. So we're still gathering that data. So we won't really know how we did during the true part of the pandemic until the end of our fiscal year.
Okay.
But, we are doing better than what we predicted. But we did experience some loss. I mean, we had some workplace campaigns that just completely couldn't do it. And they had laid off so many staff, and they're like, we can't ask the staff that's remaining to do anything right now. It's just, we don't want to stress them. And then we've had other businesses that have done massive layoffs. And so yeah, there was a big change. And then of course, our small business program, we've, that's about half, that went down.
Yeah, it's been tough times for sure. Mm-hmm. We've definitely been in the thick of it ourselves. I've talked about it multiple times on this show. I just have so much faith that everybody's going to come out of it so much better. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at our year right now, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like we could very well end up having one of the best years we've ever had. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know if I would have made a lot of the changes, a lot in processes and just the way I operate as a leader. Like, I don't know if I would have made those changes if it hadn't been for this pandemic. So I think that a lot of us are, I think it's going to come back around. I think everything's going to get way better. And I think a lot of businesses who did make it through, hopefully, a good majority of us did make it through, but I think those of us that did are going to be just way stronger and way better because of it. And even the ones that failed, they're going to start over. They'll start something new, and they'll learn from this, this time and this experience, because I know it's just been such a challenge for everybody, but still just kind of, I don't know. I have so much faith. I've said it so many times that I think we're all going to look back at this time and be like, man, we're way better today because of 2020 and 2021. Mm-hmm.
I think too, when it comes to certain industries as well, even for us, for example, we've always been teetering on the edge of diving into digital for fundraising, because we were so comfortable with the way we'd always done things. So it's kind of pushed us and challenged us to kind of take that jump. And so
because it had to, right?
Right.
Because everybody was online.
And then from just an operations perspective of, remote work and hybrid work and how does that look? And, there was a lot of, I think, fear of, I don't want to do remote work. That's not going to be hard to manage. But then when you're kind of forced to do it and you're like, oh yeah, we're all working. I work more now than I probably would have if we would have stayed fully in the office, because I have my computers right there. So I'm just like, I got to check that email and I got to do this.
So does that mean the office disappears at some point, or like?
I don't think so. No, we've had those conversations. I personally feel like we're United Way. At our core, we are conveners. Like, that's what we were designed for, is when there's a crisis or there's an issue, and we are there to bring the puzzle pieces together and get everyone in the room and get them talking. And I think when we're able to have individuals back in our building, we're going to want to have those meetings. I want to see my small business partners in the room. Yeah. I want my board in a room. Like, I physically want to be able to see everyone. And so I think we'll always have a building. But I think, we'll be hybrid. We'll have a lot of opportunity for our team to be able to, do the good work that they do. And I think what's also great is, you have individuals that have different productivity levels. Some people are just way more productive, from 10 to 7.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Flexibility.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
yeah, I think that will be another benefit that comes out of this. A little bit more difficult for us at a scooter dealership that really has to be open retail.
Yeah, my husband's in the same boat. Yeah.
But for others, it's definitely proved to be a benefit, and I don't know. Again, I'm excited to kind of see how it plays out long term. Mm-hmm. Well, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited for you, and I just look forward to seeing the United Way continue to do its amazing things in the community. Where can our audience connect with you or with the United Way? What's the best way to learn more about being a small business partner and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so our website, it's unitedwayncfl.org. And we are literally on every social media except for TikTok. So
when's TikTok coming?
I know. Right?
I think you should do it. I think CEO Amber Miller should be on TikTok for the United Way.
I don't have the bandwidth yet. I do. That is my comfort zone though. Late at night when you're trying to, you've had a rough day. I will watch funny cat videos on TikTok for hours with my son. Yeah.
They make it so easy. You just keep scrolling. Just mindless. Just scroll.
Yep.
I can feel that. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, and you guys be sure to support the United Way. They're doing so many great things right here in our community. And thank you so much to James Leitner, Sarah Lentz, and to our awesome intern team, Trinity, Gianna, and Noah, for all of your hard work. Podcast fam, remember you can find all the links to our incredible sponsors at whoagnv.com/sponsors. We also always link them up down in the description in the show notes of the episode as well, so definitely get linked up to them there. And special love this episode to our friends over at the UF Mover Guys. These guys have 50 team members and 80 trucks ready to help you move right here in Gainesville. The UF Mover Guys provide full service moving services and even have climate controlled storage. They provide loading and unloading services onto rented trucks, shipping containers, and pods, whether you are moving out of town or moving into town. Last minute moves are not a problem. These guys are available 7 days a week. They've been serving the area for years. They don't charge travel or fuel fees on any local moves, and no move is too big or too small. Give our friends Brad and Jordan at UF Mover Guys a call when you're preparing for your next move. Call them at 352-415-0886 or visit their website at ufmoverguys.com. And when you do, be sure to say, I heard you on the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go,
whoa.
whoa. We will see you later. Bye.